All right, so I think it's a good time to start. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Now it's March Madness time. You got your bracket up? Well, good luck to your favorite team, Duke. If you're rooting for that sale, also to go through, welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Franklin. I'm the product app specialist for Kits and also your webinar host. Now, this is where I show you the tips and tricks of Kits to becoming that supercharged power user. Now, in case you have any questions, you can send them over in the chat box. That's going to be located in the GoToWebinar control panel. Should be on the right side of your screen. And what we'll do is we'll go over all your questions at the end of today's webinar. Our free basic training session is set for April 11th. So if you're new to Kits, it's definitely a training session you want to join. What you can do is you can look out for Julia's email, or you can visit our Knowledge Center to register for all our upcoming webinars. All right, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at and using those Kits pre-configured planning typical galleries of your favorite manufacturers. So we'll be looking at basically starting a project. We're going to be looking at syncing and previewing the galleries. We're also going to select and edit the galleries for your use. And then we're going to take a look at any additional resources that you can certainly use in regards to planning typicals. All right, so let's get started with today's session. All right, so for those of you that are on a Windows 10 device, today I am using a Windows 10 Kits license. I'll be using the keyboard and mouse option. In case you're an iPad user, the features are all seamless. There's no difference other than how we actually interact with the devices that we're using. All right, so if this is your first time using Kits and you start up your Kits after your initial login, what you'll do is you'll appear here on this page, which is the Project Gallery screen. In the Project Gallery screen, you'll be able to manage all the content that you've created, as well as any of the content that has been shared with you by your peers. Now, you can see here in the project counter, I have 156 projects, which are all listed with beautiful thumbnails to also reflect the current saved scene. At the very right side, we have the notification bell, which always notifies you of any pending updates. And then moreover, all the way to the far right, we have the sync link, which takes you to the catalog subscription screen. This is where we're going right now. Okay, and under the catalog subscription screen, what we have here is basically all the content that is available to your license that you can manage. Okay, so you initially start under the Planning Typicals gallery, and then underneath you should see all the different manufacturers, if you have them, that are listed for you to preview. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see all the different planning typicals that are available. These are planning typicals that have been created for the manufacturer. Basically, what we do is we create these pre-configured typicals so that you can use them to ideate. Now, let's talk about the planning typicals. Now, what is the difference between the planning typical gallery or the catalogs? Okay, the catalogs are provided to us by the manufacturer. And what we do is we take their data that they send us on a frequent basis, and we convert it so that it's usable in Kits. Now, there is no difference between the data that we use here in Kits as opposed to the data that you see in platforms such as 2020 or Project Matrix. We use the same data. And the reason why we do is so that you can actually transition from platform to platform without any issue. All right. Now, what we've done here on the Kit side is we've created these wonderful planning typical galleries, either via the content creation team here at Kits or in conjunction with the manufacturers that we work with. Okay, and simply enough, to download any of the planning typicals, just as you do for any of the catalogs, all you need to do is click on any of the radio buttons that are left of the manufacturer to select it to a sync list. And then when you're ready, all you need to do is tap Sync Now, and you will sync that particular gallery down to your device. Okay. Now, again, if you're new to Kits, you can see here what we have are notification statuses, which indicate whether there is an update that's available for the particular gallery that you have. Or you can see here if the galleries have already been updated. Okay. So again, the catalog subscription screen is basically where you can manage the content that you're authorized to sell. Okay. So let's go ahead and click on the projects link. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to start a new project. Okay. Now, as a best practice, what I always mention is that anytime you start a new project, what you should be doing is you should be always assigning a project name. Okay. Now, the project name should be consistent, and it should be a naming convention that you use across the dealership or across the company, so that the people that you share the project with have a quick understanding of exactly what's happening in that project that you're sharing. So what I like to do is I like to use my last name, who the client is, let's say what particular project we're working on, and let's say what exactly we're looking to create in this particular project. And then lastly, what I always like to do is I like to date my project. So I'm going to go ahead and put in today's date, and voila. Okay. And the reason why I like to date it is so I can actually track the progress in case I have to create any additional iterations of this particular layout. So now that I have the project name, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the project's link. And here it's going to prompt for me to save, don't save, or cancel. So I'm going to go save. And the reason why I do this is because Kit will now begin to save incrementally in the background your project. So in case your device ever crashes and you restart Kit, it will have at least some kind of history to revert back to. Okay, so you don't lose all that hard work that you've now put into this project. I'm going to go ahead and click on the thumbnail to get back into the project, and away we go. All right. Now, if you have a particular project scope and you have some requirements and information, what you can always do is you can set those by clicking in the project settings. Here we have the option to editing the floor grid. Obviously here the floor grid comes in at a default size of 30 feet by 30 feet, and it's always turned on. We can certainly change that again, depending on the project scope. Okay. Now, why would you do that? Well, it definitely helps helps you space plan the actual project that you're working on, knowing what your limitations are, and then having some visual reference as to what the walkways are like around the layout that you are creating. Okay. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add Item button. That's going to lead me into the Add Item menu, and automatically the catalog filter will populate a submenu where you can see all the different catalogs, manufacturer catalogs that I've downloaded, as well as the option to previewing any planning typicals that I've also downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and click on planning typicals, and again, you can see all the different galleries that are available to me. All right. Now we're going to use our typicals from our friends at Laurel. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Laurel Office Suites and Desks gallery. And as soon as I do that, you can see here, following the navigational hierarchy above, that just like any catalogs that you're familiar with, anytime you click on the category, it drills further into that gallery or catalog. Okay, now we're given a set of different categories from contemporary laminate office suites, panel systems, possibilities, and an infinite showroom. Okay, I can further drill into this by clicking into the category I want to see. And then again, I can keep going on and on and on. So as I get into the final category, you can see the thumbnails in the background refresh. And you can now see all the typicals that are available to me. Okay? Or what I'd like you to use is our search feature. So if you know the manufacturer that you're using and you know the particular lingo that they use, because we already know that there's a standard of industry lingo that we all use to describe certain things in the industry, such as pedestals, PEDs, credenzas, cred, things like that, that we can use to actually search for items in kits. So with that product knowledge that you have, that manufacturer knowledge you have, what I'm looking for is a set of team benching tables that I want to use for today's session. So I'm going to go ahead and simply enough type in team. Let's do a search, and you can see how quickly kits will be able to search globally against the device and all the catalogs and galleries that you have to search for any of those that have in the description the word team in it. Okay, so you can see I'm now left with these two wonderful options. Let's go ahead with the first one, and I can double click on the image, or I can click on the plus sign at the very top right to include that into my scene. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign, and you can now see it takes me back into the scene builder, where just like adding any catalog item, I can now drag in this typical to use. Okay, so again, there are many options to accessing those typicals. Again, using the quick search helps you really refine a search to a particular typical or item that you're looking for, or by drilling through the catalogs. Now, one thing that we also have done here is we've created a set of different presentation views that you can actually go through when you're ideating with your client. Okay, and what do I mean by presentation views? All right, so you can see here at the Add Item menu, I have, again, the catalog filter, populating a submenu of all the different categories I have. I can certainly choose any of these categories, or what I can do is I can click in the background so I can actually preview each project as a thumbnail. And again, you're given this wonderful thumbnail gallery of a high quality rendering version of the typical that you can use to ideate with. Okay. Now, again, drilling through to the exact category will refresh the thumbnail galleries in the background. And if I want to, what I can do is I can click on any of these images, which now gets me into a full screen preview. So now I have a larger image of the typical that I can use. I have some quick information. Here it tells me a bit of information of this particular typical. I also have a pre-configured list price of this typical. And then if I click on details, I have also some details, marketing details of the particular typical itself. Now, you can see here I have an arrow on the right-hand side. If I click on it, it now takes me to the next typical. And again, I have another arrow that appears on the left-hand side, so I can go back and forth. This allows me to now ideate with my client. I can now go through all the different variations of the typicals that we see here, all the wonderful combinations that we have, at the same time allowing me to ideate with my client to find specifically what they're looking for. Okay, and I do understand, as a salesperson, sometimes you want to protect that sale, and you want to make sure that you control the amount of information that you're providing your client so that you can give them basically a competitive price on the particular furniture that you want to sell. What we do is we allow you to click on the image one more time, so you can now go into a full presentation view of the typicals that we've just gone through. Okay, and when you're ready to use that particular typical, all you need to do is click on the image one more time, and now click on Add to Project. Now let's add this project to our scene by clicking on the image and dragging it onto our floor grid. And you can see here the item has been added. We can now go through the list view to see all the parts that are included. Okay, so here's that wonderful typical that we're going to use. And if I click on list view, I can now see all the different parts that are included in this particular typical. Okay, so you have all the information that's required based on the typical that you want to use, and you can now go ahead and you could begin to proceed with the sale or proceed with editing the typical in case you need to refine it a little bit more to meet the scope of the project. Okay, and even though these are pre-configured typicals, you can see here, I can select any individual item, or if the item has been grouped, I can select that grouping, but I can edit this typical to now customizing it according to what the client prefers. Okay, so let's say we need to add some modesty panels here, okay, or privacy panels. We can certainly do so. All we need to do is find the product and make those edits. And let's say we need to also find a new chair that they're looking for. We can certainly do that as well. Okay, so first off, I'm going to go into Plan View. And the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in some privacy panels. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the Control button on my keyboard. I'm going to click on the right mouse button, and I'm going to drag diagonally across to do a multi-select. And you can see here when I do so, it creates this selection box. Anything caught under the selection box now gets added to my selection. So you can see here, it now highlights all the furniture. Now, in case you're new to kits, the blue highlights indicate that each item is individual and not part of a grouping. The red boxes indicate that these items have been grouped together. So any item that's red, or sometimes you'll see also a green box around the item, those just indicate that they're part of a grouping, and the green box indicates that that's the current item you're on in that grouping. As you can see here, the tabletop has turned green because I've now clicked on that particular item to separate this grouping from the other. Okay? All right, so I've now separated my benching here. What I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and find that privacy panel. Before I do any kind of search or go through the actual catalog, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I reset my search. And since I know what I'm looking for, and again, this is where that product knowledge is going to be key, I do understand that this particular manufacturer refers to privacy panels as well as modesty panels as just modesty panels. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in mod. I'm going to hit enter. And what Kits begins to do, as you can see here with this bar, it's now beginning to search all the content that I've synced down to my device for anything that contains the word mod. Or I can go ahead and select one of the filters and I can quickly narrow that down. And as you can see, as soon as I click on the L'Oreal catalog, only those items from L'Oreal that contain MOD now pop up. And I can scroll through my, scroll with my wheel on my mouse to go through all the options. But if you see the option that you like, go ahead and bring that to the scene. Here I double tap or double click on the image. It now allows me to drag it into my scene. Okay, so you can see here, the panel appears on the foreground floor. I need to raise that up. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I select the item. And then now, if you're a Windows 10 device user, you don't have a gesture or anything that allows you to simply raise any item from the foreground floor. What you need to do is you need to click the up-down action button here. And this will now allow you to vertically raise any item that's selected. Okay, so let's double check to make sure that my Snap 2 is on, because I want to make sure that this item snaps as soon as it detects the surface of the work surface. Okay, let's now drag it up. And you can see here it's allowing me to do it incrementally because it's detecting all the different levels of all the items that are in the scene to allow me to place it where I need to. Okay. Now again, it may not be exactly where you need to place it. So again, I'm going to go into Plan View. This time I'm going to go back into my settings. I'm going to turn off my Snap to, and now I'm going to position it appropriately. Okay. One thing that you have to make sure you do is turn off your up-down action button to allow you to move the item across the floor grid floor. Okay. So I've now placed it where I want. I'm going to go back into my 3D view, and I'm going to verify its position. And again, you can see here it's slightly off, but these are graphic deficiencies that, again, your client isn't necessarily going to be able to see. So, I mean, if you're like me, I'm a designer, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. What I like to do is, obviously, I like to fix things. So I'm going to go ahead and fix it. But again, remember, these are images that you're going to use that are going to represent the solution that you're providing your client. So don't get too caught up on these type of minor details because they won't necessarily come up when you create that final rendering. Okay, so just really draw the line as to what you feel is necessary and what you feel isn't. Okay, so it looks like that's now in position. Again, I can go into Plan View. If I want to see whether or not it's centered, I can see that I've somewhat centered it across this table. I'm pretty satisfied with that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select that workstation, and I'm going to group it together. Now, why am I doing that? Everything's about allowing you to work efficiently with the layouts and with the catalog items that you're working from. So you're going to sort of fall into this routine or habit of when you create your layouts. What I like to do is anytime I create any layout that is repeated, I always like to cluster or group those items together. And the reason why is because it's going to allow me to repeat those items without having to individually move each item so that they match. Okay, so in this case, now that I have this table all grouped up, I can click on this previous grouping and I can delete it. Let's take this one because it now has the privacy panel added. Let's duplicate it. There's a duplicate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my project settings to turn on my Snap 2. And I'm going to make sure that I'm selected on the work surface. And the reason why is because the work surface is now going to be the lead item in my grouping so that as I approach any other item in the scene, it's going to allow me to match up or align work surface to work surface. Okay, so again, anytime you have items in a group and you need to align them by using the Snap 2 with another set of items on the screen, whatever your lead item is the actual item that Kits uses for the Snap 2 feature. Okay, and again, here you can see that I'm selected on the work surface. How do I know? Let's go into 3D view. I can see that the work surface is highlighted green, letting me know that this is the lead item in this grouping. And again, because it is, as I approach the other table, it recognizes that point of the other work surface and allows the Snap 2 to occur. Okay, so I now have the panels put up. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that selection again, and now I'm going to group all the items together. I'm going to turn off my Snap 2, and I'm now going to connect the desks all together. So here I'm just going in, I'm zooming in as best as I can because I already know based on this bracket on the modesty panel, I'm going to have to allow for the thickness of that bracket. So there is going to be a little bit of a spacing between the benching here. But once I've placed it, I can now see it all come together. And again, that's just me being a designer and being a little bit detailed. Remember, these are graphic deficiencies that, again, your client won't necessarily pick up. Okay, so whether you use the snap to and you connected the work surface tables together, that's okay too, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to create a visualization that best represents the solution that we're providing our client so that they can make the quick decisions to closing that bid or accepting the sale. All right. And again, these are different features that you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to be familiar with because the style of creating the projects when you're client facing as opposed to when you're back in the office or back at home is different. What we want to do is we want to make sure that you're trained, you're comfortable, and you're confident enough to use it in no matter what scenario you're put in. Okay. So there's my wonderful team benching. But hey, let's say there's a change we need to make. We now need to replace these chairs. We need to bring in a specific chair. We can certainly do so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on one of the items here. I'm going to ungroup. I can see that the chairs are now individual again. So I'm going to click on this chair. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to click on this chair. And now I'm going to click on all the chairs so that I can quickly remove them from the scene. Okay, some of you might ask, is there a swap option? So those of you that have some kind of design experience understand that when you use 2020 or CAP Designer in CAD, there's a quick swap option where you can actually swap an item out for another. We don't have that particular option in kits. You'll have to do it manually, but you can see it's very quick to do so. Okay, I've highlighted all those chairs. I've removed them. I'm now going to go into the Add Item menu. I'm going to click on Reset. Let's go right into the manufacturer's catalog, into Office Seating. I know it's an Adorn chair that I want to use, so we're going to go ahead and look for an Adorn chair. We're just going to go ahead and click on Ergonomic Mesh Chairs. Here I can see we have Adorn. Let's click on the thumbnails, and you can see I have all these options here available for me. Okay. Or again, just to show you here, if we went through that route and we clicked on Office Seating, if I use the search to search for mesh, I can see what kits will do is it'll now refine my search to showing me all those chairs that have a mesh option, or again, simply enough by drilling through, I can get to the exact chairs that I want to see. Okay. All right, so we're pretty satisfied with going in with this chair, so we're going to go ahead and add the new chairs to the scene. Let's create that one. Go into Plan View. Quickly enough, I'm going to rotate by clicking on the Control button on my keyboard and clicking on the item and now dragging left to right. You can see here, by clicking on the left button and dragging left to right, it allows me to, if I go left, to rotate clockwise. If I go right, counterclockwise. I can now set my chair where I want to position it. And now, simply enough, I'm going to create a duplicate. Again, I can put it through. I can even double click on the select button to select all my items. And this way, I can position my work surface using the floor grid here so that now if I need to align this in such a way, I can also use the floor grid to align my chairs so that they're equal. Okay. Again, if I click on select button by turning on the action, any item that I click on allows me to select. So those of you that are using an iPad, tapping on the select icon and then tapping on the items that you wish to select allows you to add those items to your selection. For those of you that are on a Windows 10 device, you can also do the same, or simply enough by using the keyboard shortcut, you can click on the item, click on Shift, and now any item that you click on with the left button also adds it to that. Okay, let's duplicate it, drag it to the top, do a quick rotate, and now let's position these chairs in as well. Okay, let's go to 3D view, and we've now made edits to our scene. So you can see by using those pre-configured typicals, you can ideate with your client, find out exactly what type of layout they're looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be the solution. Hey, great if it is. And you can see through all the different manufacturers that we have in kits that have planning typical galleries, you can really see how extensive some of these galleries are. It's really a matter of exploring the gallery and finding exactly what's available to you. And just like learning about the manufacturer's products, you should also take the time to learn how to access those products using kits, so that when you go into your client's meeting and you need to access the planning typical galleries, you know exactly what's going to be in those galleries and where you can find them. The more you have that type of product knowledge, not just about the manufacturer's catalogs or items, but also how to access them in kits, is certainly going to help propel your saleability on that project. Okay. All right. So I'm pretty satisfied with this. Let's now position it for a beautiful rendering. And in case I'm client facing, I'm going to want to use the first option no matter what device you're using, because it's going to be the quickest way to generate an HD image. Why is this an HD image? You can see what we've done here is we've added some shade and shadowing to really provide you with a little bit more depth in that actual model or in that image. If you're on a Windows 10 device, you'll need to save it to your pictures folder. If you're on an iPad, it will also save to your photo library, but you can export it out directly to your email client, because on an iPad, there's a native email client that the iPad uses, and there's an email that's associated to your account on your iPad. So kits will use that main email address. So in case it's not your work email, you'll want to send it out to your work email and then send it out to your client. In this case, on the Windows 10 device, there is no native email client that Windows associates with. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to open up my preferred email, Outlook, or whatever it's going to be, and then I can send out the attachment that way. Okay. And then another thing I like to do is I also like to take advantage of the line drawing. So in case the client needs a footprint of the typical that we've created, I can show them exactly what that footprint is like. So if there's any requirement of information about, the dimensions, Kits doesn't allow you to create any dimensions in the Kits projects or the scene builder. But what I can do is, if I've aligned it properly in my floor grid, I can see how many squares by counting across and also counting the width, so that if I need to share any kind of dimensioning, I can tell my client that, again, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that the rough footprint of the bench tables itself are 10 feet by 5 feet. Now let's add additional square footages for the circulation, and I can now add that the entire footprint would require, let's say, 10 feet by 9 feet. Okay, so this is all the different things that you can use to send information to your client. And then again, when you're satisfied, let's click on the share icon, and you can now send the project estimation through the quick sheet to your client. Okay, and if this is your first time using the quick sheet, you can see here the project name takes the kit's project name that you've assigned, but you can certainly change it. Doesn't change the kit's project name, just changes the name on the PDF quick sheet that we're going to create. Here I can say this is for the KISP office. Oh, forgot to turn off caps, but no worries. Let's just do this quickly. And here I can indicate that this is particularly for the team benching. Now I can select any of those wonderful visuals that I've created. Let's go ahead with the nice rendering. What does my client see? Well, they see the pre-configured list price of the project. I now have the option to providing them a global discount at the quick sheet level. This is different than providing a discount at the item level. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, this is certainly a feature that we showcase in our webinar Wednesday. So if you're interested in that, you can check to see, I believe pricing is coming up. So you can go to our Kids Knowledge Center to register for that webinar, or you can simply go to our YouTube page and you can find the video on that particular feature. Okay, but here we're going to provide our client with a quick estimation. We're going to generalize what the discount's going to be. I'm just going to say 35%. That's now going to indicate on the PDF that we're creating. Here you can see with a less discount of 35, giving me a total sell price of $46.0720. I can add additional sell lines. So let's say we need to include installation in this. Okay, we're going to say installation cost is going to be $1,000. Let's add that, and you can now see that the installation cost is now added. Okay, in case you're wondering if you can add additional line charges, you certainly can using the freeform feature. But again, that is set for another webinar Wednesday. Be sure to tune in for those webinars, or go back to our YouTube page to finding those videos. I can add any additional notes I need to indicate. Let's simply say here is your estimation. And you can see under notes, it now appears here on my quick sheet. Just remember, when you turn on the control switch to type in your note, you need to click in the box below in order to add your note. At the very bottom, you can see here, I now have the options to turning off my item details. If I scroll down on the PDF on the right-hand side, I can see that what Kits will do is it generates this PDF that lists all the products, showing me anything that's been discounted, the thumbnails, options and finishes, and any of the item details that I need to share to my client. But again, we do recognize that sometimes you need to protect your bid, so we allow you to control what you want your client to see. If you need to turn any item discounting off, you can certainly do so. Your thumbnails, you can certainly do so. You can leave them with a parts list as you see here. You can even remove options and finishes, leaving them just the model numbers, or you can certainly turn off all details and provide them with basically a one-sheeter. Okay, it's really up to you how you want to use this. What you can certainly do is you can take all this information, and if there's another type of, let's say, design program or document program that you like to use, you can certainly create your project documentation package that way as well. Okay. Once I'm satisfied with what I want to share with my client, I can print it if I'm connected to a printer, or I can save as, and I can now save it locally on my device. Once that's ready, I can now go into my email client, I can attach the PDF, and I can now share this document with my client. Okay. So that's pretty much it for today's webinar. We've shown you how to access the planning typical galleries. We've shown you how to go through all the different presentation views, why we have them, how you can use them to ideate with your client. And we've also shown you how to quickly add the typical to your project, as well as edit or customize them according to your client's project scope. Okay. Now, in terms of additional resources, we may not have all the typicals that you'd need. What you can do is, if you're working with the manufacturer, or if you're working with a designer, let's say that has created a layout package for you, you can certainly use those as well. Visit the manufacturer's website. You can see all the different resources that they make available. If there's any typical that you wish to use, you can certainly download them, and then you can certainly import them using the AutoCAD import feature that we have here for kits. Okay. Again, if you're interested in that AutoCAD import, it's definitely a feature that we showcase in Webinar Wednesdays. So stay tuned, as I believe that is also scheduled for our upcoming webinars. Or again, you can visit our YouTube page or our Knowledge Center, and you can find more information about the AutoCAD import feature. All right. All right, so that's pretty much it, everyone. Again, it's all a matter of understanding how to access those typicals in kits, but really when it comes down to it is how you're going to integrate kits into your selling style. Everybody is different. It's really a matter of understanding, again, how you're going to marry your product knowledge with those new skills that you have in kits to finding solutions for your client. All right? All right. Sorry, it looks like my reflector is down here. Just bear with me 1 minute. Let me bring it back up. And there we go. All right. So just to end off, we do record all our sessions. You can certainly find them by visiting our Knowledge Center or visiting our YouTube page, as we have, again, all the recorded sessions that I've run weekly. Okay. Now, in case there's one that's missing, you can certainly contact us, as we do replace a lot of the content that's in our YouTube page. So if there's a particular feature that you're looking for that's missing, we may have it in archive, and we can share you a private link to preview that video. All right. All right. Well, that's it for me. So thank you to the KITS community for joining me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed today's webinar, as well as all the webinars that I run. And I'm really hoping that you've learned something new that'll help you improve your KITS experience. Now, you can leave us, or you can leave me your feedback and any comments about our webinars after the webinar, or by emailing myself or the support team. Don't forget, we are always looking for new collaborators. What's a collaborator? Well, a collaborator are the people that you see here. These are all people that have had success stories using kits, that wanted to share their story with the community. You can be one of these collaborators. All you need to do is contact us. We'll let you know exactly what you need to do. But really what we're looking for is we're looking for that success story. We're looking for roughly a description of your project, how kits helped you with landing that bid or closing that sale. Provide us with a quote and a selfie. And what we'll do is we will reward you with a $50 Amazon gift card. It's really that easy. And again, I urge everybody to participate. Even if you're a past collaborator and you've sent us your project a few years ago, if you have those success stories that you want to share, let us know. And we'll certainly talk with you, and we'll certainly consider all entries. Okay? So on behalf of the KITS team, thank you once more, and I hope to see you all join us again right here, same day, same time for Webinar Wednesday. Cheers, everyone.